All right. So, how are you doing today, Sandy?
I'm doing good. And how about you?
uh, I guess it couldn't get any worse than what it was before. So, hopefully this will work out a little bit better than what was trying to do before.
Right. Yeah, usually they all work. I don't know what the deal was, but
It's probably I used StreamYard for so long, and then I started using something else. Maybe that's what happened. Um, but yeah, other than that, it was a new system for me, so that's probably what happened.
it was
I'm gonna
so
try
good
and get some.
I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't even showing you in the call.
Yeah, that's
That's
weird.
how bad it is. And I got a new camera and it won't even let me use my new camera, so it's gonna be blurry like this. Um yeah, let's get some people in here so that, they're not like, hey, what's going on?
What happened?
Yep. Uh, okay. Let's hit share, copy. See how that works. Again, I am so very sorry for all this. I didn't think that
It's
was gonna happen, but it did.
yeah, wouldn't be the
Let's
first
see.
time.
Yeah, I think I need to go back to StreamYard. It was working for me perfectly the first time, and just thought, hey, maybe I should go somewhere else. Yeah, that wasn't a good decision on my end. So we know you as Judith Myers from Halloween. We'd like to get to know a little bit more about what your career was before Halloween and what other projects you did after Halloween.
I did in college, and then I went with the Playboy agency, and I did Hots, and I did Gas Pump Girls, and Jokes My Folks Never Told Me. And I think Halloween was the second one. I think it maybe was Gas Pump Girls, Halloween, and then Hots. But I never can remember, to tell you the truth.
Uh,
They're
it
all
was
right there together.
it was Surfer Girls in 1978.
Okay,
Jokes My Folks Never Told Me,
right.
also in 1978. You had a pretty eventful 1978.
Yes, I did a lot of stuff there for a few years before I left California.
So what was it like getting cast in Halloween as Michael Myers' first ever victim?
Well, at the time, of course, I was very excited to have another movie. And although I love comedies, it was fun to do something outside of a comedy. So that was very exciting. I was um, I was working with, of course, John Carpenter, Deborah Hill, and all these people that are now so famous, but then they weren't famous. It was Jamie Lee's first film, so she was, a newbie. I'd actually done more films than she had at that point. And so, yeah, it was great. We had a good time on set, but it really was just pretty much like the other movies. I didn't know that it was ever going to be a big hit.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I mean, I still have a cult following for Hots and Gas Pump Girls, and thought maybe it would be the same for Halloween, but of course, it's much more than that.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm sure a lot of people didn't think Halloween was going to work because I mean, you're talking about the 70s. We had Texas Chainsaw, we had Black Christmas, both movies that were probably in the drive-ins and then shipped somewhere else, and Halloween became the breaker for it all. Um, what
Right.
was
When
go
it
ahead.
was first released, it the reviews, of course, were not good.
Hmm.
But the fans were going to see it anyway, and eventually enough fans liked it and talked about it that they kind of outdid the actual reviews, that the magazines and things
Yeah.
did. So thanks to the fans.
What was John Carpenter like? When did you end up meeting him before you started filming, or was it you started filming and then, hey, there's John Carpenter?
I met him at the interview. He interviewed me.
Okay.
And so that was, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes. And then I did not see him again until the day we were going to shoot.
Oh, okay. What was he like when he interviewed you? Did he kind of tip his hat at what your character was gonna be, or was it just like, we're just gonna interview you, and if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, we probably go down the line, you know? I mean, let's be honest, Jamie Lee Curtis even came out saying that she hated the part of Lori and she wanted to be Annie or Linda because that's who she mostly looked at as herself in her teenage years. And it's like, but you got the better part. I mean, yeah, Lori's a big part, but you got to also think Judith Myers started it all.
Right. Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
for some reason, I always said this. I wanted to know more about Judith. We got too much Lori, not enough Michael, if you ask me.
Right.
Um, but yeah, how did that whole scene be laid out for you or to you before you started filming? Was it just like, hey, you guys are gonna go upstairs, stuff's gonna happen off camera, your boyfriend is gonna walk out, that's the last time he'll ever see you, and then Michael Myers comes up from behind?
Actually, I read different parts, and I wasn't really sure which one they
Mhm.
were looking at me for. And then whenever the agency called me, they said that I had been cast as Judith Myers. So I really didn't know until I got there exactly. I mean, I knew that there was going to be nudity and stuff. Obviously, they had to tell me that, but I really didn't know the story. In fact, I
Mm.
didn't know beyond what I did. I didn't know Michael was going to be a serial killer or any of that until I went to the premiere. And it scared the hell out of me.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was 6 years old. I was born 1993, and I remember in 1999, a year after they had released Halloween H2O, AMC having their Fear thing. Well, I had a dad and a brother, which they'll probably hate me for saying this, but loved horror movies. And they thought that scaring 6-year-old me was going to be the right thing. So as soon as I seen his mask, I was out of there. I was in my room. My brother grabbed me out of the bedroom, put me down and sat on me, and that was how I learned about the lore of Michael and Judith and all them. And let's just say it took me years before I could sit and actually watch and enjoy the movie. I mean, it's so weird how a killer who doesn't talk, and you just notice the facial expressions and all that as the motivation for him. It, and I'm sure Nick Castle at that point was probably looking at John and saying, "Well, he doesn't talk. What am I supposed to do?" But that makes it more menacing because you don't know why he's doing what he's doing. Later movies, they tried to give us a reason, which I thought really killed the mystique of Michael.
Right.
Um, but as society today, we got people always got to have that reason. They can't just be like, oh hey, one day he snapped, and oh hey, there's my sister, I'm gonna go you know kill her early in the film, and that's how it starts.
Right.
um Other than getting the part of Judith, was there a part that you really wanted would it have been like Laurie, or were you happy to even be in the film, so
I
to speak?
was just happy to be in the film. And like I said, I didn't really know what the other parts were. I wasn't given the whole script. So I just knew that I was going to be killed off in the beginning of a horror film. And like I said, I had no idea what grown up Michael was going to look like, or that he would be back, or what happened to him, until I was actually at the premiere. So that's
Wow.
when I was introduced to my now big brother.
So it was pretty much okay, you're gonna do your scene and then get off set so that you weren't able to see the rest of the film being done.
Well, mine was the last scene filmed.
Really?
Yeah, it's the first scene in the movie, but it's actually the last scene because the house in Pasadena was really dilapidated. And so they
Mhm.
wanted to use it like that first for the age look. And then for my scene, they fixed it up. In fact, they were fixing it up the day I was there while we were rehearsing.
Yeah,
So they
a
were all
lot
done.
yeah, a lot of the documentaries that you hear about it was that the cast and crew pretty much also were helping with the leaves and all that, making everything work. So it's pretty cool. Also to hear that Robert England was actually on there, which to anyone that doesn't know who Robert England is, he plays
Right,
Freddy in Nightmare on Elm Street, which hopefully we can get him back
right,
for kind of a legacy sequel. As now with the latest Halloween movies that we just got, the trilogy, um, it's kind of brought back a lot of characters from the past,
right. That's true.
and we did get to hear a little bit about Judith Myers from some podcasters in Halloween 2018. I didn't really care for the podcasters. I felt like they could have showed maybe even in Halloween Kills showed in the flashback scene of Michael doing, you know, hold on. Yes, pretty good. I think it was at Evu Mux. So I think I'm gonna go back to StreamYard.
Your Xbox console was chewing up a lot of bandwidth, and it stopped doing it at around 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No problem.
God. So other than, the short time that you were in Halloween, did they ever call you back to do like reshoots, or was it just that one shot and you're done until the premiere, like you were saying?
Yeah, it was just, we did it in 2 takes. I mean, we practiced a lot because of the new style camera. They were using the Steadicam, and to get it right for everybody, it took a few times, but we actually only did 2 takes, and that was it.
Really?
Mhm.
See, they had an experienced actress, and they kill her off in the first couple minutes. God. I'm sure John Carpenter was like, God, we could have put Sandy as either Lori, and now I'm gonna be on Twitter one day and get a hateful tweet from Jamie Lee Curtis going like, I'm Lori.
Right.
What was the premiere like? Was it shocking? Was there a lot of people there, or was it just pretty much cast and crew and a select few audience members that were allowed in?
Yeah, that was it. It was very low budget, small theater, and just mostly cast and crew and friends. Uh, so yeah, but of course, seeing it on the big screen, it doesn't matter where. It was still real scary.
What did you think about the music of Halloween?
It's still one of my favorite pieces. I mean, John Carpenter is a masterpiece for sure. That piece, I mean, it just gets your attention no matter when you
Yeah.
hear it. If it just pops up, I mean, my husband has it as his ringtone thing, so it gets my attention, even though I've heard it so many times on his phone. If it comes on TV or on my tablet or whatever, you just can't help not be drawn to it.
Yeah.
It's just a great piece of music.
It's kind of
And
like the Jaws theme in a way.
yes, I mean, it immediately takes you in your mind, to the opening of Halloween. Of course, it does me anyway, but
Hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, for Judith being such a people say a small character to the lore of Michael, without Judith, who knows who Michael would have killed first? I mean, we later in the remake with Rob Zombie got the convoluted part of it, and I think what made it really work was that when they did that scene, how vulnerable you made Judith feel, because you just say Michael and then he's stabbing you, and then um we don't get to see the aftermath totally of all that. Michael walks down the steps and the parents are like, Michael?
right,
uh I kind of wish they would have had one of the parents walk up the stairs and then see what had happened, but back then less was more.
right.
um Speaking about your husband, what did he think about all that stuff when you guys would meet and all that? Were you able to be like, hey, I'm Judith, I played Judith Myers in a movie that we didn't think was gonna work but became a cult classic?
I never really talked about it much. I
Mhm.
mean, he knew I was a playmate and he knew that I was an actress and had done some films, but of course, it had been 20 years at that time. And actually, maybe only 15 or 18. But he was fine with it, of course. He thought it was wonderful and I'd done those things. But we never really got into it and watched the films and all that until they found me in 2018. And so now, of course, he's a huge fan too. He wears a shirt that says Sandy Johnson's #1 fan, and he won't let anybody else wear one.
Ah, darn it.
I'm
um
for him. But no, he loves the cons. He goes with me to all of them because he loves them too.
how are the conventions? I've never been to one.
Oh my,
Never been to one.
oh, they're amazing. Um, it's hard to describe. It is definitely a community, and you can definitely see that a lot of people who may not find it easy to fit in to groups and things,
Hmm.
they're just there and they're having the best time and immediately feel welcome, like they fit in, they understand the people, and it's amazing to be a part of that. So yeah, you should definitely go. I will warn you, they're addictive. um, I hate this time of year because I normally, because of my association with Halloween, a lot of times I get booked September through October. And
Hmm.
so the rest of the year, I'm going, come on, somebody invite me. Um,
Hey, you're always welcome to come back on the show. Maybe once I figure out all this stuff again, I'd love to have you back on. I mean, it, you know, I've had Darcy DeMoss, who was in Friday the 13th, Part 6. I had Peter Anthony, who helps make fan films, his being Roseblood, Vengeance, in the Friday the 13th continuation. If anyone was to come up with a story where Judith survives, maybe be a fan film, would you be willing to join that?
it depends on Trancas Films
Hmm.
and the advice of my agent. I actually have a story that I would like to see done, but it would all depend on if it could be done. I'm not sure
Yeah.
legally if it could be done, but I do have a story that I think is could be made and is believable. But yeah, that's a good one. It's hard to answer that because there's a lot of a
Well,
lot
yeah.
of things in there. Um, I get in podcasts are not my thing. I get invited to more podcasts than I could possibly ever do. It's conventions that
Yeah.
I this time of year because that's where I mean the enthusiasm, the energy, is just incredible.
Well,
And so
definitely.
with that,
Um, that's one thing about living in Minnesota. We don't get the big conventions around here. I always said, it'd be interesting to have a Halloween movie in the snow, but no, Hollywood, please don't do that, please. Our us fans are still reeling from the Halloween ends. Oof.
right. Well, you should fly to Chicago sometime for their event once a year. I mean, if you can only go to one, the one in Chicago is really good. It's very well organized. It's a ton of fun. Lots of people come. They always have good celebrities. Um, it's outside of Chicago, so you don't have to worry about that part of it. It's not really in Chicago. It's right by the airport.
Yeah.
And so I'd say if you could only go to one, that one is fabulous.
Okay. Yeah, I've always wanted to go to one. It's just every time with, me and my wife planning all the vacations and all that and trying to make ends meet and all that. It's kind of like, God, the which is shocking with the amount of time I spend on my podcast. People usually ask me, "When do you ever take a break?" And it's like usually never. So, um
Well, I mean, you can do podcasts from there too.
oh, definitely. I mean, heck, if I ever go to a comic or a con and you're there, heck, I'll interview you there, and we'll get your husband on there, so we can ask, what is it like when people go up to your wife and they're asking, hey, can you sign my Michael Myers mask?
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Uh, I actually have one of the Michael Myers masks that I bought at Party City, and I was gonna wear it just at the beginning, and then all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, it'd be fun to find it. Can't really find it right now. But yeah, it's been amazing, even being able to have you on the podcast. Like I said, hopefully this one will be my swan song, where people are like, God, he's really good. He gets all these good quality guests on, and like I always say, it's always the guests. It's never me being the interviewer that makes the podcast. It's the guests, because without the guests and getting their insight on maybe just even playing one character, it still means a lot to some people.
Right.
And for you to grace the podcast, I'm truly honored, very blessed for that. And hopefully the interview works out. But
I'm
I, I, I
really
love having you on here.
good. Well, I'm happy to be here.
So let's switch focus from Halloween to some of your other projects. What was Playboy like? Was it an interesting experience, or was it like, hey, I did it, now I can go hopefully do something else?
No, Playboy was actually awesome. I did it, as you probably know, because my father had cancer and he wanted a treatment in Mexico. So I did Playboy to earn money. And so that was my reason for doing it. When I did it, a lot of positive things happened. Of course, I got an agent. I got the movies because of it, because suddenly I had a name and I'd done something. So it was very helpful. I wouldn't say I was an extremely popular girl growing up. I had some very good friends, but I was never like, a Valley girl or anything.
Yeah.
And so suddenly being invited to the most sought after parties in Hollywood, which was the Playboy Mansion, it was kind of cool to be on the always invited list. So that was kind of a change for me. And and of course, I came from a rather poor family. And at the Playboy Mansion, you could get whatever you wanted. I mean, you could order anything to eat at any time. I mean, they just spoiled you rotten. So that was new for me too. So I did enjoy those perks. It was a lot of fun. It was a beautiful place. They had a zoo there, and I love animals, so I could go out and just get a glass of wine and just walk out and visit with the animals and stuff, which, so to me, all of those things were new and heavenly and no
Mm.
charge. So that was nice. So it was a good experience for me. I know a lot of people have said it was not good for them, but I never had that experience. I always had fun. Hef was always nice to me. And yeah, it was a good time.
I was just about to ask, what was Hef like? I mean, you like you said, nowadays you're hearing, now that he's gone, you're hearing
Right.
more people coming out and saying, "Oh, he was, terrible." And some people, like you were just saying, loved meeting him, but other people are just like, he forced us to do this, and it's like, no, no, he didn't. You knew, people know what they sign up for. I
Right.
mean, but the sad thing is a lot of this stuff now is coming out when a person can't defend themselves.
Right.
And
And people will say anything sometimes if it gets them on TV or, whatever. But Hef was always nice to me. He was usually there, with one of his girlfriends. And, we would all go in. He had a theater. We would watch movies. We would swim, play volleyball, um, egg hunts, at Easter, just whatever. They always had activities going on. And sometimes he would be involved, sometimes he wouldn't. But I mean, I never saw him be inappropriate with anybody. Like I said, most of the times he was with his girlfriend.
yeah.
So um I mean, I knew a lot of his friends and stuff, and they were nice to me. So I don't know. I never felt uncomfortable there. I always had a good time. And I didn't really see anybody else that seemed to not be having a good time.
Yeah, definitely was a different time then, a lot of people wanted to have more fun, where now we're dealing with a lot of stuff that's kind of shifted our moral compass, so to say. So, you know, I always tell my dad, because I love all the music that my dad grew up, Led Zeppelin, all those bands. I love them, and my dad always tells me, he's like, Steven, you were born in the 90s, but you got a 70s soul. And it's nice to hear that, because, I never really fit in, or, not really an outcast, but I never fit in with some of my peers and classmates I went to school with, because they didn't like horror movies. They didn't like all the old, Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry, Vanishing Point. They did not get why I liked that stuff. They didn't get why I liked Monty Python or the Three Stooges.
Right.
It's just an acquired taste. I mean, just like with Halloween, we as the fans were spoiled with the first one, and then automatically, even though John Carpenter and Deborah Hill didn't want to, they made a second one, and then that branched off into all the many ones we got. Um, were you ever approached to be in 2018 Halloween?
I was not, because they hadn't found me when they were actually shooting it. So whenever my agent did find me, of course, he got a hold of Blumhouse because they'd been looking for me. And they only had time to take the clip
Yeah,
of the thing and put it in the cemetery scene.
yeah,
So if it had been even a week later, it would have even been too late for that.
yeah.
So no one had known where I was for like 40 years. So
Well, I mean, they still can't find the original Tommy, but
right,
that's because he never had an agent, and he kind of shied away, I guess, from acting, which a lot of people do. They have that one swan song movie, which, to a lot of people was Halloween, or was Assault on Precinct 13, or, um,
right.
did you, I'm sure you were able to meet Deborah Hill
Right.
on, what was she like?
She was very nice. She actually, her and John together um, kind of acted out a lot of the scenes
Hmm.
um, before we did them. So that was very helpful. So they kind of did the staging and everything for us to say, I want you here, here. This is this is kind of the playfulness. So they kind of role played together for us, which was very helpful. Yeah, she was nice.
Um, did you meet Jamie Lee, or was Jamie Lee not there at that point? Was she?
I did meet Jamie Lee. I did not know her role that day because she was just there. And like I said, they were already finished filming,
Yeah.
but she was in the trailer with me. And she actually did help clean some blood off of me because whoever was doing it was kind of rough.
Ooh.
And so she helped me between the two takes to get the blood off. So that's that was my meeting of Jamie Lee.
All right. I'm trying to figure out questions on the go, but since my earlier mishaps trying to get everything figured out and all that, gosh, were you able to meet Donald Pleasance?
No, unfortunately
Oh,
not. I regret that. I know. I wish I could have. Um, I have met, everyone else since then, either at the premiere of 2018 or at different conventions, of course, because our tables are usually close together. And it's been really fun, that part of it. PJ and Nancy Loomis and Nick Castle and even James Jude Courtney. I mean, they're a blast. We have so much fun when our tables are there together, and then we go in to do our, the celebrity photo shoots and stuff. We get to hang out for a few minutes and sometimes have, a drink or something at night and get together. So that's been really fun to see all of them again.
yeah. You do go to a lot of conventions. Is there any? I'm sure you get your fair share of weirdos that come up to you and act weird, but is there anyone that really would sit down and be like, hey, your character was the best character in the whole movie?
Um, you know what? Most of the Halloween fans are amazing. They really
Hmm.
are. The percentage of people that might make me uncomfortable is so small.
Yeah.
Almost all of them are respectful and interesting and so happy to meet me that it makes me so happy to meet them back, that they love the film so much. So even on social media, Facebook and Instagram and stuff, most of them are just wonderful. Very few people have I ever had to block.
Yeah.
So, um, you don't know going into the horror community what it's going to be like as a celebrity, but it's been extremely positive for me. They are amazing.
I mean, heck, I was nervous just so someone was like, hey, Sandy Johnson's on Facebook. And I was like, Sandy Johnson? They're like, Judith Myers in the original Halloween. I'm like, no way. And they're like, yeah. So I can tell you this. It took me a lot of courage to be like, hey, would you like to be on the podcast? Because with some actors, it's like they don't want to have the experience and all that, so to speak. So it was very weird. Oop, we lost audio, Sandy. Um, let's see. Hopefully I didn't press a button. Gosh, what the heck's going on with this now? We're doing so good, and then all of a sudden now it won't. Dang it. Um, I don't know if you're able to hear me, Sandy. Oh, yeah. What the heck? Ugh. Can you hear me now, Sandy? Nope. Oh, darn it. Are you able to hear me now, Sandy? No. Darn it. Ooh. Shoot. Come on, Steven. All right. Let's see. I don't know why that happened. If anyone is able to hear me on the stream, sorry about that. We audio cut out. I'm gonna try and see if we can get it back going. See if it works. All right. Is it working? So yes, it is. We're gonna try and get Sandy back in. Hopefully she'll be able to hear me. Come on. All right, we're gonna get Sandy Johnson back in. Hopefully it works. I've never had this problem before, so I think I need to go back to StreamYard for recording. So I will be coming back to StreamYard and doing my recordings from here because I never had really much of a problem here on StreamYard. So we're gonna try and get Sandy back in. Oop.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden, in the middle of me asking you a question, it just dead. Oh my gosh! If my podcast doesn't die after this one, it's hanging on by a thread. I know, people, but you know, we're trying. This is a new setup for everyone, but I thank you so much for being as patient as you've been. I know other people would have been like, well, you know, he's having technical difficulties. We'll cut it here.
No worries.
Now, other than Halloween, was there any other franchises that you would have loved to have been a part of, or other movies in general that you would have loved to have been in?
Well, I would have liked to have been in other Halloween movies for sure.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, you know, even if they couldn't have brought you back as Judith, because like we all know, Judith dies early on in Halloween, they could have had you as another character. I mean, heck, Jamie Lee Curtis has died how many times in the Halloween franchise, and they keep bringing her back.
Right.
Ah,
I can't think of anything in particular I would have wanted to be in. I mean, I do love to act. So, I mean, I have films coming up that we're just waiting to shoot. And I've done some short parts in some films that will be out probably later this year. So that's been fun. But I'm waiting to be on set.
yeah. I bet. I wish I could have gotten that experience of doing that, but luckily, Hollywood hasn't come calling, and they're probably better for that. I don't think I could make it in Hollywood with the way the industry is going now. I
Right.
mean, I'm sure a lot of uh, actors and actresses that were back in the movies back then that are still in movies today are probably like, it was so much better then.
Yes, I agree. There's probably a lot of them that think that.
I mean, the quality of movies back then is 10 times what today is. Uh, God, with all the stuff that's happened in this interview, it's probably an omen of me trying to cancel the podcast now.
Well, let me tell them about my social media in case they
Yep,
don't know.
go ahead.
They can go to Facebook. It's The Real Sandy Johnson. And I try and post every day if I can, unless I'm just super busy. And I post a variety of different things that I think the fans usually enjoy. And I do my own social media. So I don't have a handler that manages my page and puts up words in my mouth or any of that. It's actually me if someone responds. I'm also on Instagram as Unicorn Sandy J. And the unicorn name was given to me by my agent who had looked for me for about 8 years. And when he found me, he said, "You are my unicorn, my magical mythical creature." So I thought that was so fun that I said, okay, I'm just going to do Unicorn Sandy J because that's fun. So that's where that comes from. I don't have a particular love for unicorns. So that's where that came from. And then, of course, my website, again, with the unicorn, is www.unicornsandyj.com. And on there, you can get autographed photos. You can mail things to me to get them autographed. You can get Michael Myers masks or ornaments or all kinds of collectibles that are Halloween related and get them signed. And my latest thing, if you didn't see it, I introduced it yesterday. Let me grab one for you real quick.
All right.
If I want it signed.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah. I decided to do something just for Judith. I'm always signing stuff that's Michael Myers, but this is, let's see if I can get it in there. There it is. This is Judith's hairbrush. So the last thing she did while alive was brush her hair. So it's a real hairbrush. And you can get it, and all of them are different because I do the blood spatter on them. So they're all different. And then I sign them. And they're available on my website too. So there's just a lot of fun stuff on there. My podcasts are listed on there, my movies, upcoming cons. So anyway, that's my social media stuff. And I have several movies coming up this year and cons. And so they're listed on there if you're interested.
Yeah. Also, if I have a group for my podcast on Facebook. I'll send you an invite to that. If you want to join it, you can. You'll find that there's a lot of people in there that I'm sure that would love to get the opportunity to ask you questions like I did today when everything was working. But as they say in show business, you have technical difficulties, it happens.
Yes.
So before we go, one more question. If you, with some of your ideas for your films that we were kind of briefly touching on, would you want them to be full-length feature films, or would you want them to be TV movies? Because TV movies now are making a return, which, shocking as it is, they are. Or would you want it to be like a TV series? Which way would you want it to go?
I think that Maybe a short film or a TV movie would be probably good for it. I don't think it needs to go on and on. I just think it would be interesting.
So you hear that, Hollywood? She doesn't want it to be franchised. She just wants it to be out there because she wants to show her vision for her ideas, which it makes me sad because I had Tommy McLaughlin, who is the director of Friday the 13th Part 6, and I asked him, I'm like, if you could be a part of Friday the 13th again, would you? And he's like, in a heartbeat. But the thing is, Hollywood doesn't want him because,
Right.
as like anything, he's like, it's due to age. And it's like, come on, which it's sad. It's sad because it is true. But at the same time, it's like, why wouldn't you want, Sandy Johnson or Tommy McLaughlin in a movie or directing a movie? I mean, it's the world's weird, and it's a horrible world if people think that, Sandy Johnson or Tommy McLaughlin couldn't, put out a short fan film or a TV series and it would make a lot of money. It would. Because Hollywood, let's be honest, they're going back to a lot of the properties that happened back in the 70s, 60s, and all that, and are making lots of money off of it. But yet, they won't try and make something new.
That's true. Well, that's why we have independent films.
Yep. Oh, I love independent films. It's a lost art. Not a lot of independent films make it like what back in the olden days where you could have that freedom. I mean, John Carpenter fought to have his name as John Carpenter's Halloween. And a lot of people that have never seen Halloween are like, well, why did he do that? It's like, because if it succeeded, his name's on there. If it failed, it's because, he wanted it to be a success or failure with his name on it. Kind of like Alfred Hitchcock would have done, and Howard Hughes.
Sure.
Or Howard Hawks, I think it was. So yeah, thank you so very much for being on the show. I'm so sorry for all the interruptions we've had.
That's all right. I'm sure you can crop it or clip it.
I'm hoping. But thank you so very much.
Yes.
If I can ever get you back on the show again, I would truly be honored again, as always. And to the fans out there, this is Sandy Johnson. Don't be weird around her. She's Judith Myers. She had a serial killer for a brother in Halloween. She's already creeped out enough by him. But thank you again, Sandy. It was truly an honor to interview you. And again, anytime you want to come back on the show, more than happy to have you.
All right. Thank you. And you need to go to a con.
I will try. You know what? I will promise this. Once my podcast starts, making me a little bit of money, anytime I see your name at that con, I will show up there and I will have my Michael Myers mask and be like, hey, Sandy, could you put Judith Myers on here instead of, Michael? And you know what? Even better, I will buy a higher brush from you, because then I can be like, hey, Alyssa, which is my wife, you can use this hairbrush and you automatically feel like you're Judith Myers.
Well, that's why I got a nice brush that you can actually use.
All right. Thank you so very much. And I will talk to you later.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Well, everyone, that was the legendary Sandy Johnson. So sorry for everything that had happened. And it's really sad that, all the interruptions had to happen. Not her fault. Technical difficulties do happen. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this interview. I know it wasn't the best I could have done, but Sandy was an amazing interviewee. Learned a lot from her today. So this video will hopefully be on my YouTube channel. I don't know, because usually I'm using EvuMux, which now I think I'm going back to StreamYard. So thank you so very much for joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed this when everything was working perfectly. Go over to the Deluxe Edition Network, where you'll find this podcast and many more. There are a lot of independents on there that do a very wonderful job. We truly appreciate the love and support. Also, go and check out the Podcast of the Month, which are Barrel Aged Flicks and History I'd Like to, or HILF as some of us call it. Also, go check out Talking Shit, the Talking Shit Show with Mark Bensett Jr. and Brian. They do an amazing job. That will be it from me. Hopefully you all enjoyed, and also have a great weekend, or have a great week, have a great weekend, stay classy, and I will talk to you all later.
This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.